Hey, dude, how's it going?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I was just watching over last week's episode, and I kind of caught you off guard there in that one spot. So I was just curious. Have you thought of a ring name yet?
Uh yeah, let me run some by you and see what you think.
All right. All right.
All right. First one. Chet Manley.
Yeesh. I don't know about that one. What
No,
else you
not
got? What
good.
else you got?
Um Randy Randerson.
I don't like it.
No, no. How about Rando, a mononym?
Rando. Like Amonymum is his last name?
No, no, just a one
Oh,
just
I
a
get it.
one name,
Like
let's
Madonna.
share. Yeah, Rando.
Rando. I mean, it's getting better. You're
Sound
getting there. You're getting there.
Horatio Cornblower.
QT ain't true.
The following presentation has been brought to you by HSF Productions.
Hey guys, welcome to IWP, the Impromptu Wrestling Podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Jeff, aka Tally006. Over to my left here is my brother Damien. How is it going today?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. I just want to take a quick moment to throw out my appreciation to everybody who's been tuning into the podcast on YouTube. Our last video got over 40 views, which is really good for completely unknown. So I just want to thank everybody who's watching and encourage you guys to think about subscribing. Drop us some likes. The likes really help the YouTube gods to promote us a little bit more. And again, just leave us some comments below. We want to engage in conversations. We will definitely comment back and engage into some conversations with you guys. So drop those likes. Leave us a subscribe. I said that backwards, but that's okay. we have a really big show this week. Not to sound like Ed Sullivan all of a sudden, but we had a ton of matches this week. As we get into AEW Dark, why don't you tell us about what's happening on Tuesday nights?
Well, earlier this week, Tony Khan tweeted that he was going to be having a lot more matches during Dark this week. There was 6, which I think we only have about 3 or 4 usually on a Dark episode. And many of the matches in Dark were going to feature wrestlers that are from the independent scene that are out of work, and he wanted to give them a chance to be on TV and do some work. So yeah, there's a lot of matches mixed in with guys that are already part of the roster. So here's how it went down. We had Joe Alonzo versus Jake Hager in the first match. In the second match, it was a tag team match. Mike Sells and John Cruz versus the Natural Nightmares, which I think is the first time they've used this name. Just
Way
QT
better.
Marshall
Way
and Dustin Rhodes.
way better name than Death Triangle. Just throwing that out there.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Then we had Sean Spears and Robert Anthony versus SCU. Shug D versus Kip Sabian. Brandon Cutler versus Colt Cabana. And then in the main event was Corey Hollis and Mike Reed versus Sonny Kiss and Joey Janela. So I don't know that we have enough time to talk about all of these matches, but what stood out for you on Dark this week?
Like you said, a lot of names that we've never heard before. Tony staying true to his word that he was giving these guys a shot, and I think that's good. They were given a shot. I feel the majority of them probably aren't ready for anything more than this. Just to be completely blunt and honest, a lot of these guys did not look ready for TV matches. But again, the shot was there, and good for them for at least making somewhat of a name for themselves to even be given the opportunity. But, just pure bluntness here, a lot of these guys aren't ready. I think the one name that really jumped out at me was Joe Alonzo. Although he was in a match with Jake Hager, he seemed to move the best. He seemed to be the most comfortable in that scenario. I've seen on social media that he is friends with Sammy Guevara. Was part of his vlog, and so it's maybe he's been around a little bit longer. But I think if I were to pick anybody, out of this dark match to give them another shot, I think it would be Joe Alonzo. What did you think of these up and comers?
Well, one thing I noticed about the matches is that there was really no crazy spots. I thought all of the matches were very straightforward. The wrestling was very straightforward, and really, maybe besides Shug D, there was probably, I think he did some rope work where, he was jumping off the ropes, but
not very
most
well.
of it was body slams and, clotheslines and things like that. What I did is, as the show was going, I was looking the guys up, and the one sort of notable guy was Mike Reed.
Oh, okay.
He's actually been in Ring of Honor and WWE, and now he might have got lost in that match just because it was a tag team and whatnot.
So
he's a smaller looking guy too.
So which one was Mike Reed? Was he the Jack Black looking guy or the knockoff Billy Gunn looking guy?
The Jack Black looking guy.
Yeah, no, I totally forgot about that match. Kind of in my little rant there, but those guys were good too. Mike Reed, he took a lot of punishment in that match. He was kind of the one getting worked on for most of that match. But what did you think of that tag team, that matchup with Sonny Kiss and Joey Janela? I thought that was interesting. They worked well together.
It. They got really good chemistry. Yeah, I would like to see more of that.
Is that a Jersey thing?
It could be. Mm-hmm. I really felt too like they really did the booking of these matches in maybe order of experience, or maybe besides the Joe Alonzo.
Right.
Like it just seemed like they were getting better and better and better. I think the match for me was really Kip Sabian. I think he did his really best to try to really highlight Shug D. Like the announcers were all over this guy. I can't say I really saw it, but man, it just shows me how good Kip Sabian is, and man, they got to put this guy on Dynamite more because he's so good.
Yeah, so I was not a fan of Shug D. Like I thought he was the worst of the group, but I agree with what you're saying. Like Kip Sabian did his best to make that match presentable, which it was, and he gave him his spots. Shug D had his spots to get himself over. It didn't come off well. Like you mentioned, his rope work, it was sloppy at best. But big props to Kip Sabian for going in there with an unknown and making it work. I mean,
yeah. Could you imagine if it wasn't Kip Sabian and it was another independent guy? Like,
yeah.
Like I really feel like that match would have been awful, but I think Kip Sabian made that match.
Yeah.
Like now that I'm thinking about it, Sean Spears and Robert Anthony, he's another one. I couldn't find where he's done his work, but they were saying that he has like 20 years experience. You could tell that based on just his presence in the ring and calling out things and selling. And
he was very vocal during that match, right? He was like, Spears, get in there. Like he was kind of giving it back. So yeah, I agree with the experiencing there. Just a quick mention on Anthony there. He, we've watched wrestling for a while, and it's just like I'll make the comment. It's like, when's the last time you saw someone do a fireman's carry? And then, like 2 weeks later it happens, right? Well, I was thinking a couple weeks ago, but we're not together, so you might not have heard this, but I said to myself, it's like, man, no one does a body slam anymore. And Robert Anthony pulls out 3.
Yeah.
I thought that was
That's
cool.
what I mean. Like, I think they did well in that they weren't trying to, like, make AEW, right? Like, they weren't trying to do or overwork, maybe is a better way to put it.
Right.
Like, they were just keeping it simple, and the matches were all really decent. So I thought it was good on them to do it like that.
Okay, well, maybe next week we'll see some new faces, or maybe some of these guys will get a second shot, but we'll see on the weeks to come on AEW Dark. As we move forward to Being the Elite, we had a really short episode in comparison to a lot of the other ones. But I wonder if because of the lack of people around to do the bits, maybe is why these episodes are getting a little bit shorter. But it starts off with Matt talking about social distancing and how weird it is, and how he's kind of coping with it. He talks about the toilet paper fiasco. However this ever got started, I don't know. But and then we get Kenny walking out of the bathroom with a couple rolls of toilet paper, and I didn't even know he was in there. I thought it was a clever little tail end of a bit, to where he was almost talking serious, like this is just vlog BTE at this moment, and then no, let's tack on a bit at the end. I thought that was clever.
Yeah, it was ever so subtle, and I mean, if you weren't really paying attention to it, you might even miss the fact that the toilet paper is kind of flowing as he's walking out.
Right.
Yeah, I thought it was the funniest part of the whole show. It was a good start to it as well.
And then we get into Matt sitting on the can, and he goes to reach for, and it's gone, and he's got to pull the towel down, and it's just a clever punch.
But he says not again. It's like, wow, this is happened in the past.
Yeah, I had to watch that again, and I wonder if I am maybe forgetting something about a past episode of Being the Elite. Has Kenny stolen the toilet paper before? I don't know.
I wonder if it's a setup for the next segment where we see Kenny.
Right.
Yeah. Did you notice that there's a phone in that bathroom? Like on the wall behind him?
No, I didn't notice that at all. Might be an old hotel.
I thought that was weird.
just in case you run into some trouble, you can call room service.
I guess so. Yeah, don't use the towel. We'll just come bring you some more coffee.
Yeah, jeez. So as you mentioned, we get into Kenny singing his lullabies to his toilet paper baby. I mean, this is classic Kenny Omega. Like, this is... I want to say this is just Canadian humor coming out. I feel like, him just rocking it and, going a little stir crazy, and that's classic Kenny Omega. But other than that, pretty standard bit.
Yeah, we've talked before, and I've told you my feelings about how I feel Kenny really he overacts. So here's another one where I was just I didn't get it. I wasn't buying it. I wasn't digging it. Then I watched it over again. I thought it was better maybe the second time that I watched it. Like, it seemed funnier to me.
Right.
Maybe I was focusing more on his facial expressions, and like, I know he's not taking himself too seriously, but yeah, it was definitely better the second time that I watched it.
I agree with that. I thought I just watched it again before we started recording. But as we get into the next segment, we have Kenny kind of sitting on the couch, and he's giving us an update on his hand, and Matt comes in and, hey, we need water for the boys. It's hot out there, kind of thing. And yeah, sure. Hey, this will be a good chance to test out my hand. And there's Colt Cabana hiding behind the pile of water. I thought this was clever too.
Yeah, and I kind of like how they were almost doing this in cartoon fashion.
Right.
It's like what you would see in a cartoon where he's kind of like peeking above the water as he keeps taking one. Yeah, comical, and then the little chase scene at the very end of it.
I love when, we've seen this in Being the Elites before, where they had these like mini matches in their hotel rooms in these really tight spaces, but they totally play it up. It's like Kenny's chasing after him, and he's like doing his ring, like he's running the ropes in the ring. Like they just play it up.
Yeah.
Going back to Colt Cabana kind of hiding behind the thing, like I was totally expecting the Duck Hunt dog laugh. Every time he peeked out, I was expecting him to go, and then like duck back down or something like that. Like Duck Hunt. But we didn't get that. That's too bad. But yeah, good bit.
I felt like maybe Brandon ruined this segment too because he talked in it.
Right.
What did you think about that?
I didn't really notice it actually, but I guess just because he kind of always talks from behind the camera. So
I think it was more that he was sort of giving away what it was. Like instead of just being the impartial cameraman, he's like, "Oh no, I got everything. Like, I got everything."
Right.
I don't know. I just didn't.
Yeah. Maybe in that instance, he should just be the camera guy. But
yeah,
it's Brandon Cutler. He needs to do anything he can to get over. So
that's true.
We also had some kind of travel montage bits. Pretty standard for Being the Elite. And then it ends off with Hangman sitting at the bar all alone and sipping on his whiskeys and forgets his wallet, and he kind of laughs at himself, and there's Matt Jackson to save the day and puts down some money for him. And then it looks like we're going to get this heart-to-heart talk between the two kind of butting heads, and we get the Sopranos treatment where it just cuts in the middle of a sentence. And are we gonna get a conclusion to this, or is this gonna be something for the next week? What do you think?
I think we're gonna get the conclusion to this. I like the cliffhanger. Like, it's making me. Now I want to see what's gonna happen next week.
Right. All right. Well, overall,
what it's gonna be, I'm not sure.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure where they're gonna go with this either. But overall, I mean, like I said, it was a short one, but with the limited means of what they got to work with, it was a decent episode, and we're getting some progression in the storylines, which is always good. So, Being the Elite, can't wait to check it out next week. As we roll along, we have the power rankings for the week of March 25th, 2020. How are things looking up this week?
Pardon me. All right, in the men's division, Jon Moxley still the champion. We have Chris Jericho at number 1, MJF at 2, so no changes there. Cody moves up 1 position to number 3. Jake Hager debuts at number 4 on the list. Kenny Omega moves down to 5, and Pac drops out of the top 5. In the women's division, Nyla Rose still the champion, and there's absolutely no change from last week. So Sheeta number 1, Statlander number 2, Sakazaki.
Yuka Sakazaki.
Why can I not say her name? She's at number 3, Baker at number 4, and Riho at number 5. See, I got her name now.
Right.
It's all good.
I'm surprised.
Right.
I'm surprised Penelope Ford didn't crack this top 5 this week with her win over Riho on Dark a couple weeks ago. I'm surprised.
Yeah, and Jake Hager making it.
I mean, if we're being honest,
I guess he's got 3 wins, but
if we're being honest, he deserves to be there more than Chris Jericho with his 0-1 record. But
Right.
Jericho is Jericho. So, I mean,
Yeah.
whatever. Tag team division, what do we got?
So we got Omega and Page are still the champions. Dark Order, Young Bucks, SCU, all in the top 3. Lucha Brothers are back in the top 5 at number 4. Best Friends moved down one position to number 5, and Private Party again out of the top 5. They're just kind of in and out and in and out.
All right.
All right, so that takes us to AEW Dynamite, and we're still at Daly's Place Arena. Still no fans. What did you think about this week's episode?
Last week was so good. It kind of exceeded all our expectations with the empty crowd. So I was just curious at how they were going to top it this week. And, you know, at the end of it, I'm like, they almost did top it with just awesome professional wrestling. We had more matches on a Dynamite than we've ever had before. You know, the vignettes were well produced and highly, you know, well executed. The flow of the show was perfect. It didn't seem to be too rushed. It didn't seem to lag, which sometimes it can do. So yeah, overall, I thought this was an awesome show from start to finish. What about you?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I felt like last week's was definitely better. You had kind of alluded to, you know, is it the sort of time that we're living with right now that, you know, that's sort of an influence on how that last week felt. But yeah, I felt like there was some things missing from this episode that they had last week, and we were kind of missing that. But yeah, like really, really good matches. So
well, for sure,
totally makes up for it.
For sure, with the changes into, you know, the social distancing kind of guidelines, they are really trying to stay away from having too many people out there at once. So yeah, we lost MJF kind of hanging out at ringside, you know, giving us that, you know, that atmosphere, I guess you could say. But I mean, you gotta do those kind of things, right? You can't be setting a bad example for the people who are stuck at home, because, you know,
right.
Hey, if they can all gather,
are getting shut down
right,
for not following the rules, so I don't think that they want to get shut down,
especially in their first year. Like, that could really hurt AEW as a whole. Big I don't know if you want to call it news, but something that was missing from this week that we all were expected to see was the Blood and Guts match. Now, I had said I can't remember if it was last week or if it was the week before, but I mentioned how I think this match should be postponed or canceled, or whatever needs to be done, and hold off until we can do this in front of a crowd. Now, it seems like there was no official word that the Blood and Guts match was actually canceled or postponed, but with AEW's tweets early in the week mentioning what matches were going to be on Dynamite, we saw that it was going to be Cody versus Havoc. It was going to be Kenny versus Sammy. It was going to be Hager, you know, in action is how they put it. We didn't know who he was going to be wrestling. So we knew that this match wasn't happening this week on Dynamite like it was supposed to. Now, I'd like to think that someone watched the podcast and said, holy shit, Towley's right. We can't do this match without a crowd in it. I'd love to say that, but it was the rant episode that
it was, eh? Did all
that, so 2 weeks ago. Yeah. But, you know, it was more of this COVID-19 situation that we're in, to have, you know, essentially 10 wrestlers, a referee, amongst cameramen and crew, kind of enclosed in a small area, goes against what we just mentioned, and how, you know, we need to start following the rules because we are examples, you know, on live TV for people sitting at home. So it makes sense why it got canceled. I was a little ticked off that we didn't get an official statement, but, you know, someone voiced their opinion on Twitter, and Chris Jericho was quick to tell that person to get his head out of his ass and realize what's going on. And so I took my head out of my ass, and I understand what
well,
happened.
You know what? I think they, you know, I think Cody, Jericho, like, they could have maybe did a bit more to try to make this a part of the story.
Yes.
Maybe it was last minute and they were still hoping they would maybe be able to still pull it off.
Right.
But I was a little disappointed in that they didn't figure out some way that they could fit this into the story, and then, you know, it's postponed and,
right,
you know, will happen another time. But yeah, it's a crazy time, and there's going to be some crazy decisions. So we'll give them the benefit of the doubt on that.
Oh, for sure. And like I said, this is what I wanted to happen in the first place. So I'm excited to see this match. To me, it just builds it more. But like you said, a little bit of a story tie-in would have been great. But the other big notable change for this week is we don't have our regular commentary crew. What did you think of not having JR and Excalibur on commentary this week?
Well, it's weird. I mean, those are our voices of AEW, I feel. But the replacement was Kenny Omega and Cody, which I was kind of wondering at first how that was going to go. But I don't know about you, but they're actually pretty good, especially Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
I mean, if they ever need a backup, throw him in there because, wow, he's like a really good talker. He knows, you know, moves and he has some really intelligent insights on things. So yeah, it worked for me.
Kenny mentions in that, I think it's during the first match while Cody's wrestling, which we'll get into. But he mentions how he hasn't done commentary since he used to film the backyard wrestling shows with his buddies back in Winnipeg, and I can only assume that my fellow townmate Mike Angels was part of those early videos. But you know, shout out to Mike Angels. But yeah, he hasn't lost a beat, man. He's really good on commentary. He cut in when he needed to cut in. He threw to Tony when he needed to throw to Tony. He was calling the moves by all the right names, and yeah, he was really, really good.
Yeah, Cody was good as well. The only thing with Cody is he would kind of get off topic, I would feel. Yeah. And he would start talking, I don't know, there were some kayfabe lines I think he was tiptoeing around every now and then.
Yeah, and I had to tweet it out. I had a couple tweets. I was live tweeting during the episode this week, and the first tweet, which in regarded to the commentary, is I kind of gassed up Tony Schiavone. You know, I was really glad that he was getting the opportunity to kind of lead the commentary desk. I think that's where this will end up sooner or later, maybe a couple years down the road. JR's great. I have nothing against JR. He's a legend, but he can't be calling matches for the rest of his life type thing. He's retired, you know, 3 or 4 times before. You know what I mean? So it was awesome that Tony got a chance to show that he could lead a commentary desk still. You know, he did it for years in WCW. I was so pumped that he was getting that shot. And then the other tweet I had is Cody throwing out more references than Mauro Ranella and Corey Graves put together. Like, holy smokes, was he throwing out references. And it was like, okay, buddy, you're a wrestling fan. We get it. Like, you know what I mean? But
I think he even says that at some point, like, yeah, I'm just a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
Through and through. So.
Yeah. But good replacements. I'm curious to see if they're going to stick with Cody or Kenny going forward as the other guys. Like, I don't know if JR being an elder gentleman that they're maybe protecting him with the whole COVID situation. To me, Excalibur is completely protected. He's got his mask on all the time, right? But
they kind of mentioned it in the episode that it wasn't really due to any of this. It was more of it sounded like maybe not being able to get a flight to be there.
Oh, okay.
Like it was like a location thing.
Okay.
So maybe I know his book is coming out soon. So maybe he was doing some promotional stuff and then couldn't get a flight back to Florida.
All right.
I'm kind of expecting them to be there next week, but
okay,
that could be a cover as well, right?
Right. All right.
I really feel like they're trying to entertain and not talk about it and scare people because people are already anxious enough about it.
For sure.
So yeah, it could be a cover.
For sure. Well, either way, curious to see how they're going to handle the commentary desk going weeks forward, and they have some pretty solid replacements if need be.
For sure.
As we move on with the show, it starts off with the first match of the night. We have Cody versus Jimmy Havoc, finally back on Dynamite. Good to see Jimmy Havoc. This was a really good match. What did you think?
Yeah, like I think there's always at least one match, it seems, every episode where it's just technical wrestling. And this was that match this week. Like the beginning of it is just the moves and counter moves were just really perfect. I didn't even think I've ever seen Jimmy in this sort of capacity where he was actually wrestling.
Right, for sure. He's kind of known for the hardcore stuff, right? And I believe Kenny mentions that on commentary, how this is kind of out of Jimmy's element.
But yeah, he killed it. Like, yeah, it was a really good match.
We're also getting some cuts to backstage in what looks like inside a trailer, and we have Sean Spears again. Billy Gunn with his son Austin. At one point, Chris Jericho shows up randomly. They got the money out again, so keeping along with that gimmick that we saw last week. No MJF this time though. I thought these were well done. Like it felt like it helped. The lack of audience noise. Just to kind of cut into that, much like having them out at ringside did last week. So, I mean, if you can't have everybody out there, if that's showing a bad example, then for sure doing these little cutaways was really cool. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I liked it as well. I think they could even take it a step further and, Dasha was back there, do a little impromptu interview.
Right.
And ask them what they're thinking about the match or whatever.
Yeah,
I think that would also work.
Almost cutaway live commentary,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're gonna send it over to Dasha with some insights from Billy Gunn or whatever. Yeah, that's a really good idea. I like that.
Yeah.
At the tail end of the of these matches of this match, we get. It's clear Jericho's cheering for Havoc. He wants him to beat the crap out of Cody. And then it's clear Austin is kind of rooting for, Austin Gunn is kind of rooting for Cody. And they're going back and forth. And then I got floored by this line. But Jericho says, you don't even have a contract here. Why don't you shut up? To Austin Gunn. And I friggin' fell on the ground laughing. That was hilarious. I couldn't get it.
I don't even think I caught that.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I have to rewatch that.
And Austin's kind of like, oh, man.
He wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, he wasn't expecting that at all. And just classic Jericho, right? It was really good. I had a chuckle. I had to tweet it out. It's so funny. As we get into this match, as we're watching it on the side here, what were some of the specific spots that really stood out to you? Do you think?
For me, it was just that reverse suplex off the top rope. That was just a huge spot, really well done. Looked really, really good.
It's not something we see.
Pop.
No, that inverse vertical suplex, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it's it looked impactful. That's for sure.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say there was any one thing. It was just really good technical wrestling.
They really did everything. You know what I mean? They did their kind of technical, working the head, reversing hammer locks and all that kind of chain wrestling stuff. We get some outside, let's just throw each other into the fences kind of thing, and then we get some big spots. There's some suplexes, and like you mentioned, the reverse suplex. Just a really good match all around. It finishes with Cody giving him 3, or was it just 2? I think it was 3 crossroads in a row. Just wouldn't go for the pin, and just really is planting his head into the ground. It was a really good finish. You know what I just remembered as I'm looking over to the screen here is Havoc pulled a Jericho, or a Rock, if you will, and grabbed the headset and got into the mic during the match.
Yeah.
Like, how cool was that? Like, that's kind of out of character for him, but it made me pop. I love when wrestlers go on the commentary mid-match.
I like that. I always cringe because he throws that headset down. It's like, oh crap, those things are probably super expensive. But I thought it was a really good spot.
As we get into the end of the match, of course, Cody wins after those three crossroads. He's kind of celebrating. Brandy comes in and congratulates him, and we get a vignette come up on the screen of #OneTakeJake, and like, this guy is so good. He's so good in these promos, and I mean, it's well documented that he used to cut his promos in WWF back in the 80s, and his nickname was One Take Jake. They gave him an idea, and he came up with his own words, and he did it in one shot, and they never had to reshoot any of his promos back in the day. And I just can't help but feel like this trend continues for Jake in AEW. What did you think of this promo? This vignette?
It was really awesome. I remember we were first talking about his sort of debut in AEW, and you're saying one of the great things about Jake is that he's not a yeller.
Right.
He talks very softly and draws you in. And that was in total effect in this one right here, just because it was pre-shot, right? And he's just all alone sitting on a chair, and you feel yourself sort of kind of leaning in, just taking it all in. And it was really, really cool promo there.
The atmosphere of the shot, it's the fire's kind of in front of them. Sometimes the camera's shooting through the fire. Sometimes it's up close, like nice tight cut shot and whatnot. And just the way just the way he's sitting, and he's kind of like on his elbows, and he's just it's such a cool character that he is kind of adapting to in AEW.
Yeah. Now, in our in our last show when we were talking about the Lance Archer vignette, I had wondered if Darby had some sort of
Right.
part in all of this, just because it seemed very Darby-like.
Right.
So I don't know if you listened to the Talk is Jericho with Matt Hardy.
I did.
They actually say that that was shot at Darby's place, and it was Darby who did all of that.
Right.
Do you feel like this promo was also Darby?
Yeah, I
Like, there's
bet
not a lot to it, but with the fire in the front, it seemed very.
I bet they shot a bunch of stuff for this storyline that day. They did the thing at the ring and Lance just piling through people, and then they probably shot this, and I bet they shot a bunch of other stuff, and this was all at Darby's house, like you mentioned. So I'm thinking we're gonna see a lot more vignettes and stuff to come that have this same kind of feel to it, the same atmosphere, if you will. Which
So when do you think this is going to happen? This Cody Lance Archer, are they going to wait until what is it, Double or Nothing? The next one?
Yeah, Double or Nothing is going to be the next pay-per-view. I believe it's set for May 23rd. But it's hard to say because I feel like this is something that needs to happen outside of Blood and Guts. But now that Blood and Guts is postponed, I don't know when that's ever going to happen. So maybe this Lance Archer storyline gets cut ahead a little bit, and we see it a lot sooner than we thought.
Yeah. They can't just keep putting off story, right?
Yeah.
Like in Dynamite. Something has to be happening or else people will lose interest.
Yeah, for sure. Any other thoughts on this one?
Whenever I see Cody's going to be in a match, I have very high expectations, and this one met it or surpassed it, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, really good match.
Cody's the man. We've said it before. I'll say it again. He is the man. As we move into the next match of the night, we have Darby Allin coming up against Kip Sabian, and as you mentioned a few minutes ago, actually, is how we needed to see more Kip Sabian on Dynamite, and you're getting your wish right away. These are two. I don't want to say high flyers, but fast moving, high octane wrestlers. And did they ever work well together? Wow.
Yeah. So I want more Kip Sabian, and so I get my wish, but then it's like the lottery because then they put him up against Darby Allin, and it's like,
right.
Can you have any better match up there than these two? So yeah, when I heard that, I'm just like, okay, this is going to be a match. And it started off with the Darby vignette. Like,
right.
I don't know, they feel like they're getting better and better and better. Like, I'm almost looking more forward to his films, his little short stories, than the actual matches.
So let's talk about that. He's kind of got his own feud with Inner Circle, going back to kind of the Sammy Guevara stuff. And it seemed like after that match, he started wearing these, masks, if you will, of Inner Circle on his face. And this is, I believe this is the second time, maybe even the third time, that we've seen this kind of vignette from him. What do you think is his future in regards to Inner Circle? Like, he's not a part of Blood and Guts. He's not a part of the Elite. It seems like it's Inner Circle against AEW at this point. Like, everybody's got beef with Inner Circle. So, where do you think this Darby Allin Inner Circle feud goes?
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like what he's been using Inner Circle with in these vignettes is that they were a sacrifice. I felt like
Okay.
that was the message with this one, is like the, putting down Inner Circle was his fuel for kind of going forward, and he was taking them and sort of beating them as, Kip Sabian, your next kind
Right.
of idea. So if it ended today, then I think that's probably a good ending. But yeah, you're right. I think they are trying to put this, Inner Circle as the top faction in the company, and everybody's kind of out to get them. So I don't know. I think they should do more Sammy Darby. I don't know that that's done. I
Right.
feel like he's not quite big enough for Jericho. Proud and Powerful, they're kind of a tag team, and Jake and him, I don't think that would work. I don't see them having any chemistry. So I'd like to see more Sammy and him if it's going to be Inner Circle at all.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't. I felt the same way that you know it was kind of like we're putting this to rest type thing with the Inner Circle, and he's moving on, and he won that match against Sammy, so yeah, it totally makes sense that that's behind him at this point. But you can't help but feel it's gonna circle back around, no pun intended, right?
Right.
So let's get right into this incredible match that we watched. Kip Sabian, we mentioned it a little bit when we were talking about Dark, how his ability to carry a lesser talented opponent, but now he's got an opponent who can very well carry a match himself, and like I mentioned it in the intro to the match, man. These guys work so well together. Overall thoughts on the match? Like, what did you think?
I think you said at the beginning, like it's fast paced, match, quick moves, not really high flying, but just a lot of counters, a lot of kicks. You heard a lot of what was going on just because there's so much going on. And then it was a little bit of everything. Like they were also outside, and Penelope got involved, which she should be, uh,
Mm-hmm.
playing her sort of role there. So I think my only gripe with this match is that when they went to commercial break, they didn't do the picture in picture.
Right.
And it's like, this is going to be the top match of the night. Like, how can you not be doing picture in picture during this match? So I was a bit disappointed in that.
Yeah, I wonder. I'm trying to remember. Did they even do picture in picture all night?
Now that you say that, maybe they didn't.
I feel like we didn't
I
get to
really
see that.
noticed it in this one though.
Yeah, well, you're wanting to keep watching the match, right? Because it was so good.
Yeah.
I agree with that. It was a little weird. Um, this match was really well structured. I mean, I've said that before, but these guys they didn't really have a history. They haven't really run into each other before. This was kind of just a match of these guys are here, let's throw them out there. But when you have two young guys that are this talented, you're gonna get a top tier match. And I feel like I want to see this as a feud, as a long term feud over the next few weeks. I just don't know how they could do it. Like Kip's kind of already involved with Colt Cabana, and I totally thought that was going to be the match we were going to see this week.
Yeah, me too.
But with Darby supposedly, getting his closure with the inner circle, if you will. What's next for Darby Allin? I just don't know how he can spark something out of this. To me, it would have made more sense for Penelope to interrupt the match somehow and Kip go over, kind of dirty, and then you have somewhere to go. Now Darby's got a mission to get that win back, to get that retribution on the super bad couple or whatever they're calling themselves.
Yeah.
But maybe that's not the plan for it to be Sabian Darby. Maybe they got other plans for Darby. Maybe they have other plans for Sabian. But I feel like they kind of missed out on something there, being how good this match was.
Yeah, I feel like I hate to use this word. I probably use it too much as like their gimmicks, right? So their characters. You have Kip, who's, better than you, and whatnot. And then you have Darby, who he doesn't really care about what anybody has to say. So those two things, there's no conflict there.
Really? Yeah.
So
that's a good point.
Yeah. I don't know how it would work either. But yeah, I think you're right. I think if they did what you're suggesting, then it sparks something.
Right.
And they could have worked with it for sure.
For sure. Just last little bit, what did you think of that submission move that Darby pulled out? Never seen it before. The Last Supper.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, was this one of the ideas for this match, was to sort of debut this move? Yeah, it was a cool move. I'm not quite sure about the name myself, but yeah, it works. And you had mentioned last week, Cody coming out with the figure 4, showing that he can do submissions. Is this the same idea? Is there a possibility we could see maybe a Darby in there if Blood and Guts does happen and not everybody can compete?
Right.
Is he somebody you throw in there and now he has a mission move?
That's a good point.
Know.
That's a good point. I thought it was a cool submission too. It looks like it hurts. I felt like this is a moment where Cody kind of stepped the line. He kind of buried it in a way, where he was trying to come up with what the real name of the move would be, and I can't even remember what he was calling it. Some kind of leg lock. It was named after somebody, but he kept changing it. He kept going back on his line or whatever, and I just feel like it almost buried the move a little bit. Oh wow, the Last Supper, that's a devastating submission, and it gets him the win, and let's move on. You don't need to analyze it to death in a way. So I feel like Cody kind of stepped the line on there and buried Darby Allin's move there. Not so much buried Darby, but buried the move. To me, the move isn't nice.
I think so. Yeah, it's like if someone's finisher is a body slam, and then he's just saying, well, yeah, that's just a body slam.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
Charleston or something he called it. I can't even remember.
Yeah, it's like the people's elbow. They never refer to it as just an elbow drop. It was the people's elbow. Anybody can do an elbow drop, but if you do the people's elbow, you're not kicking out. And I feel like that goes the same way. If the move's called the Last Supper and it's a finishing submission, then it's called the Last Supper.
And if it was JR, he would have been, that looks devastating. And,
right.
Yeah, build it up.
The Walls of Jericho is just a Boston Crab, but no one's ever tapped out to the Boston Crab. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You buried the move, Cody. You fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's move on.
After we just said we love Cody, he's the man. He's not a commentator.
He's not a commentator. He's a promo guy. He's a wrestler. Anyways, as we move on to the next match of the night, we have Jake Hager going up against Chico Adams. Never heard this guy's name before. I've never seen him before. Don't even recognize him. To be honest, I believe I was tweeting at this moment, and I didn't even watch this match, and it was over before I came back. So, what can you tell me about this match?
Yeah, when Chico came out, I'm like, he's a jobber. This is a squash match. It's got so many flavors of vanilla on it. I almost choked on it. I'm like, AW, what are you doing?
Right.
We don't need to show that this guy is strong. We get it already, right? He's MMA guy. He's the heat for the inner circle. We don't need this match. I don't understand why we got it. But so it was a squash match. And then Moxley, I won't say it's a run-in. He walks in. They kind of do a stare down. And
but I think
paradigm shift.
But I think that's why you have this match. This is the reason. So that Moxley can come out and beat up Jake Hager. Like, that's why you have this match, and it only lasts 2 minutes, is to give Moxley the reason to come out and face him, because Hager's not going to come. Hager's not going to come out there with a microphone and talk. That would be worse than the squash match, I feel.
Yeah, but you could have Hager interrupt an interview with Peter Avalon, and then have Moxley walk in. You could have an interview with Brandy in the middle of the ring, or Tony Schiavone, and Jake can do his silent treatment where he doesn't answer any questions, and then Moxley walks in. Like, why the squash match? I don't know. Just wasn't doing it for me.
Interesting. But I mean, like you mentioned, Moxley comes in. They have the stare down, couple punches, paradigm shift, and Jake just walks it off. Basically, there was no further want or need to go any further.
I think Jake gets a couple on him though, doesn't he? Almost gets him in the ankle lock.
Right. It's a scuffle. And,
yeah.
But yeah, it was what it was. I mean, it's good to see Moxley back. We haven't seen him on TV outside of these pre-recorded promos, if you will, or interview segments, and it's good to see him in action. It's good to see the belt on TV again, and I mean, this is obviously where this is going, right? Like, we're gonna see Hager Moxley at some point, and to me, this just makes me think even more that Moxley's gonna break into the cage at Blood and Guts somehow, some way, and take Hager out of the match. Like, I think that's where it's going. But
yeah. One thing I should say about this match is, even though it was kind of short, and even though it's Chico Adams, I thought Jake actually looked better in this match. He looks better. He looks like he's getting a little bit more fit, and he seemed to move better. So that's promising. If we're gonna have a Moxley Hager match, it needs to be a good match.
I feel.
John,
go ahead.
John's good, but I like
right to carry
if
him.
We're going back to the Dustin match. I don't know that John could make that a great match.
Right. Just now that you mentioned that, like, maybe that's another reason you have the squash match, is just to get more reps in for Hager. Because it seems like this guy's good. We've seen him at the top of his game before he left WWE. Like, he's a good wrestler. He's a amateur national champion, I believe. for like Oklahoma or something like that. Like, this guy can move. It's just he's been focusing on a different career for the past couple of years, and yeah, he's got that ring rust, but every time we see him come out, we've mentioned it, he's getting better and better and better. So maybe this squash match is just another rep, another what do you want to call it, snap under center, just another rep. So
no bowling analogies today.
No bowling. Yeah, it's not. It's another frame in the books. Anyways, let's move on to after the commercial break. We come back and Moxley's kind of leaving the arena, and hey, they try to catch him for an interview, and classic Moxley, just straight to the point, and I'm coming after you, Hager, and I told you to watch for your blind spot. And just classic Moxley. Not much more to talk about there. What do you think?
Yeah, no, it was straightforward. It's been kind of what his promos have been lately, and it's getting it pumped up for this. When it's going to happen, that's yet to be determined, and it could be what you're saying. It could be there's a clash at Blood and Guts, if and when that happens.
We got another vignette, whatever you want to call it, kind of video, this time focusing in on Dark Order, and Tony and Cody do a good job setting this up, talking about what happened last week and the debut of the Exalted One, and how it's Brody Lee. Again, Cody kind of stepping on the line of kayfabe where, I knew him from a different name. Like, you don't need to say that. We know who he was. Who is he now? That's all we care about. So, and it goes into this vignette, and it's, Brody Lee, the Exalted One, having dinner with the two minions. And it's funny that we mentioned it last week. Like, what did they even call those guys? They had a name for them. And I said minions, but it didn't sound right. And this week they actually used that word. I believe Tony used the word minions.
He did. I feel like they have a different name though. But yeah, he did use minions for sure.
I think I thought about it afterwards, and I think it was creepers.
That sounds right.
When it was right. Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, and they had the oogly boogly guys in the masks and the black shirts. I believe they were called
the Throne.
Yeah, I believe they were called the Creepers. But again, if you know what that word was, leave it in the comments below. You could argue that those guys are called the Creepers, but Alex Riley or whatever his name is, I still don't know it, and Long John Silver, they they could be minions. They're a little bit higher up on the hierarchy than the Creepers, but
yeah, they get to take their mask off every
now. Yeah, they have privileges that the Creepers don't.
That's right.
What did you think of this vignette? Like, to me, it didn't do the job that I feel like they were wanting it to do. Like, they were kind of trying to give off this vibe that the Exalted One is the head lion, and he eats first and whatnot, but it just didn't come off that way. And I said it when we were speculating who the Exalted One would be, and you mentioned Luke Harper, Brody Lee, and I was just like, I don't know if it'll work. We haven't heard this guy talk before. I don't even know what his voice sounds like. I don't know, we'll have to wait and see. Well, we're starting to see him cut these vignettes and these promos, and I gotta say, I don't like his voice. You sound wussy. You don't scare me. And this vignette was just, I don't want to say acted, because, you know, that's not what wrestling is, you know, or what it's supposed to be. But it was poorly done to me, and I think it's counterproductive to Brody Lee's character, and I think they need to change something. What did you think?
I felt like when I seen it, I thought the same thing. I thought it was a weird way to take the character.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, today I listened to the Brody Lee Talk is Jericho.
Right.
I don't know if we really want to get in this too much, but they pitched to him that, you know, he was going to be the exalted one, and he was actually not sure about that himself.
Okay.
And the reason he wasn't sure about it is because it was very much like the Wyatt family. Like, it sounded very much like it, and he was really afraid that they were going to do this, you know, comparison between him and Bray Wyatt, you know, because the characters would be so similar. So, you know, he was just excited to be able to be creative again and, you know, wrestle again. So it's his idea to do this character very similar to what Bray was doing, but do it in a slightly different way. So the whole point he was trying to get over is how terrible he treats his people. So whereas, you know, Bray was this family, come enjoy the family, he's very much, you know, he treats everybody badly.
Okay.
Now, he himself is admitting that, you know, it's really hard for him to actually work the way they work at AEW, because when they say, okay, you're going to go and do a, you know, promo, he's like, all right, well, what do you want me to say? And they're like, well, whatever you want to say.
Right.
So he does feel a lot of pressure, and I think he's going to get better. So yeah, do I feel it was his best work? No. But he's also trying to make himself unique, to not be, you know, put in the categories of things he's done or things he's been a part of.
Right. And that makes a lot of sense that you said that. I haven't listened to the Brody Lee podcast yet. It's in the queue. But you saying that he's, you know, he was in WWE for so long that he's probably never had to come up with his own promos, or at least not in so long that he forgets how to do it. So it makes a lot of sense that you say that maybe he feels a little bit nervous, where they're like, hey, these are the points you need to get across, come up with something. And that's kind of how it comes across in this vignette. He almost talks too much, is how I feel. And, you know, that goes totally with, you know, someone who is maybe not sure on the exact direction that he wants to take it. Maybe with more time, more reps, like we've said before, it'll get better. And hopefully it does, because this is kind of a story arc and a character that I've been excited to see how it turns out. And it's kind of falling flat on its face right now. So hopefully they can pull it up. I think if he wants to get away from this Bray Wyatt comparison, he needs to not tease doing the Sister Abigail, because he definitely did that to Chris Daniels last week. He had him down, and then he just lifted him back up and gave him a boot or a clothesline or something. But if you don't want these comparisons, don't give us reasons to think it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So.
And I don't know if that was a sort of a silent sort of nod, tip of the cap to Bray, because I know I seen a tweet from Bray kind of in the same light. It wasn't at him directly, but it was to him, kind of thing.
Yeah, because he says something about, I guess it's just me and Rowan left, kind of comment, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. I hope it gets better. I think it has to get better, or they'll
scrap it.
They'll change it up. Yeah.
To be more positive about the character in the situation, I like the aesthetic of the character. You know, he, especially his ring attire, we see him like was that? Yeah, we get him in this next match. Let's just get right into it. His ring attire, the symbols that are on his pants and stuff like that, the way he has his hair up, it really reminds me of, I'm not sure how familiar you are with Marvel Comics or even the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but like Iron Man 3 and the Iron Man story arc, he goes up against the 10 Rings and the Mandarin, and you know, the Mandarin is kind of this phantom, you know, overlord of some sort, which ends up being a hoax kind of the whole time. But, you know, with the symbols and the way he's wearing his hair, he very much reminds me of the Mandarin. And I think that's kind of cool, kind of story arc, if they're kind of playing off of how that specific villain kind of carried himself. I think it would work a lot better. It would keep away from the comparisons to Bray Wyatt. And, yeah, you know, being that... I guess not so much a phantom because we know exactly who he is now, but, you know, the all-seeing overlord, and I just think it's a cool comparison.
Yeah. One of the things he mentions in the podcast as well is how he brought up a character change to Vince, and it didn't really fly with Vince. And it was this... kind of a monster character, but who was very, very intelligent and who spoke very intelligent.
Okay.
And I feel like maybe he's taking maybe part of that idea here. That might be why he sounds wussy.
Right.
Because he's trying to come off of as this very sort of sophisticated, you know, he had the suit on this week.
Yeah.
In all of that. So, I don't know. Yeah, it didn't come off the best. It didn't get me excited about it, but
I'm willing to give.
Yeah, hopefully, it gets better.
Yeah, I'm willing to give this a chance. Give it a few more weeks, and we'll see how they progress it. But yeah, if it keeps going the way it's going, I don't know. They got to change something, and hopefully it's for the best. As we get into the next match, it is Brody Lee versus QT Marshall. This will be Brody Lee's AEW in-ring debut, and I think they did a good job of displaying his talents in the ring and how he is a devastating force to be reckoned with. He kind of squashes QT Marshall here, who has kind of been on the up, you know, with the Natural Nightmares tag team. So what did you think of this match and how Brody carried himself in the ring?
Yeah, I thought it was a really good first match for him, and you know, he's a big guy and you expect big things from him, and QT Marshall's a big guy, so I thought it was good. It was a squash match, but I don't think there's anybody picking QT Marshall to win this anyway.
No. Yeah.
You can't have the Exalted One
debut
up here and then he doesn't win unless you're on Vanilla Brand. So, you know, they actually did a little bit of a if you want to call it a story here, because QT kind of comes back a little bit, and then, you know, Brody Lee takes it back and then ultimately wins. So, yeah, it wasn't anything fantastic, but yeah, you're right. If anything, it's showing how powerful Brody Lee is.
This match did more for Brody Lee's character than the vignettes did. is my takeaway.
Yeah, and maybe based on fan reaction, he might pull back that idea of the, treating the minions poorly and whatnot. People might not relate to it or like that. I don't know. Like, I feel like the Dark Order is those heels that are like almost face because they're so over.
Right.
Like maybe Brody wants to get them back to heel. Like have them hated. Maybe that's where it's headed. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Need to get it back to where it's not cool to be in the Dark Order kind of thing. Where it was almost getting like we were seeing kids with the masks on in the crowd and stuff like that. So that's a good point. We get a little bit of story progression at the end of this match where we get one of the creepers coming out and they throw a mask on QT's chest after the win for Brody. We've seen this before with Evil Uno and Stu Grayson after their matches. They've left the mask for Nakazawa and Brandon Cutler and stuff like that. We haven't seen any real follow-through on those situations. I'm guessing because BTE has been limited into their personnel that they are able to use. But, I'm interested in seeing how they handle QT Marshall because he's kind of already in a faction being the Nightmare Family. Maybe he'll be the first to jump ship. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the first one who's going to actually join the Dark Order because really they've been pushing that hashtag and that whole idea, but has anybody really joined besides Lon John Silver and his
first mate Alex Riley?
I was trying to think what yeah, you're right. First mate.
What is his name? It's Alex something.
No, it is Alex Riley, isn't it?
No, it's not. That's the Mrs. Bitch.
Okay. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. He's Alex Riley and Long John Silver.
They're creepy minions.
For sure. All right. As we get into essentially the main event of the night, we have the AAA Mega Championship title match. Kenny Omega is our champion. This is AAA's, big belt, whatever you want to call it, heavyweight championship belt. He is defending against Sammy Guevara, who is well known in AAA. It's where he got a lot of his early years of wrestling in and whatnot. So it's not the first time we've seen AAA belts on AEW. We had the AAA tag team belts, Lucha Brothers against the Young Bucks and whatnot. This match is really good. Like, it's been a while since the main event was kind of the highlight of the night. A lot of undercard matches have been stealing the show, but I mean, as good as Darby Allin Kip Sabian was, this match blew it out of the water. This was a high 4 stars match for me. This was really, really good and really entertaining. What did you think of this match?
Probably one of my biggest takeaways is like Sammy looked awesome, and we have said that in the past, but I think being in the ring with Kenny is a little bit of a different story. So I wasn't sure how this was going to go, but man, Sammy kept up to him. Yeah, Sammy really impressed me in this match.
We saw Sammy in the very first match on AEW Dynamite against Cody. That was the first match ever on Dynamite. And Sammy really burst onto the scene in that moment. When it's kind of the highlight, like not highlight, I can't even think of the right word for that, but the spotlight the spotlight was really on AEW. It was the first match, so there was a lot of eyes on Sammy at that moment, and he took full advantage of it. Now we see him go into the Inner Circle later in that episode, and we haven't really, besides the Darby match, we haven't really seen Sammy go up against a high caliber talent in the likes of Kenny Omega. So when the spotlight is back on him, he takes advantage again. And yeah, there's no other word but impressed with this young kid. I mean, he's very impressive in his own right with all the fantastic moves that he does. But this showed his ability to wrestle a match, use psychology, which is something that Kenny Omega doesn't get a lot of credit for. This was just a really well fought match that didn't have any story behind it. This was kind of just let's put the AAA championship on the line. Let's get at least somebody from AAA to wrestle against. That just so happened to be Sammy, but I mean, these guys blew it out of the water. I can't say it any other way.
Yeah. I guess there's still the element of Elite versus Inner Circle.
There is, yes.
So there's that little bit of story in it. But, yeah, like, he did a really good job of, like, top quality wrestling and then also staying true to his character.
Oh,
because he is kind of a silly character guy if you watch his vlog and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, even the moments where he's jumping the guardrail to, you know, kiss the Brandy picture and talk to his little drawings he has on the outside, like, it didn't take away from what the match was about. So, and then, you know, Kenny's always awesome, and like Kenny does a headbutt. I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah, I did.
So talk about obscure moves that nobody does anymore. Like,
for sure,
does a headbutt. Like, dude, are you Big Show?
He did the big
headbutt.
He did the big high knee and everything. Hey, like, yeah, yeah, it was a headbutt. Yeah, for sure. I totally caught that.
And Sammy can sell. Like, I seriously thought he was hurt. I can't remember what move it was, but he wasn't really selling, but he was just laying there. I thought, like, at least the wind's knocked out of him, but he looked really, really hurt. I don't know if it was a V trigger or it was just a really hard chop or something, but yeah, he's lying on the ground, and I'm like, oh man, he's got to be hurting right now.
Right. Yeah, no, Sammy is a very good seller. He's a very good wrestler. That's all there is to it. He gets it. I've said that about some other guys before, but yeah, he gets it, and he understands it. And working with someone of the talents of Kenny, like, just made him look that much better. This was a great match. Again, we're getting some flashbacks to Sean Spears' locker room and the betting that's going on. We see he gets into it with Billy Gunn a little bit. So I wonder if that's somewhere that's gonna head. Yeah, I don't know.
Kenny fans look really good in this.
He sold it a little bit, yeah.
Sammy went after it, but I mean, he was throwing him against the ropes and he was using his hand. So that seems good. I mean, that's promising for if Blood and Guts is going to happen, or I shouldn't say if it's happening. I'm sure it's going to happen, but like when it happens, then that's not going to be something that hinders his ability.
Yeah, he sold it a little bit when he was throwing those double axe handle from the corner kind of thing. He gave it a shake, and he's still selling the hand. And yeah, Sammy went after it quite a bit. Yeah, I don't know. This is just such a good match. I can't even give you any real specific spots that really stood out, but I don't know. I got nothing else to say, man. It was so good. It was
good. It was just a really good wrestling match. I don't think it always has to be super high flying. He usually does what his 540 splash or whatever.
630, yeah.
Yeah, like he didn't do that, but he didn't have to do that. It was good in its own right.
That's a good kind of tagline for this whole episode. We had a lot of guys who can do the high flying stuff, and none of them really went for it. It was just a really solid, grounded night of wrestling, and so good. Kenny eventually gets the win over Sammy. This match was over 3 segments, which I thought was really something that maybe needs to be mentioned, that we had 2 commercial breaks throughout this match. Again, Aubrey in there to referee a title match. It seems like she's getting all the big matches, which she very well deserves. She's one of the better refs on the roster. But Kenny eventually getting the win on this one. He goes right back up to commentary afterwards, and he's huffing and puffing into the mic. They actually turned his mic off at one point because he was huffing so hard, and then you can barely hear him talking. It's almost like Cody's mic was picking it up, but they obviously didn't get that turned on for the broadcast. I thought that was a funny moment.
Yeah.
Any other things you want to mention about this match? How about Brandy's interactions with Sammy during this match? He has the drawing of her out in the crowd, and he goes out and makes out with it as we go into a commercial break. And Brandy's face while that's going on is classic. Like, if I don't see that in memes over the next few months, I'm going to be disappointed.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I didn't get to watch it until, probably about 3 or 4 hours after it aired. So I went on Twitter before I watched it, and I was already seeing this Brandy face and people commenting on this face. So, yeah, no, it was a good response to, Sammy doing that. I'm glad they got a chance to pan to it. It didn't seem like it was planned at all.
Right.
I felt like commentary spent too much time talking about the Star Trek character that one of them was drawn as. So yeah, if I had to criticize the match, it would be commentary, just some of the weird things that they were talking about during it. But I think you're right that we lose track of Sammy sometimes because he's not in those bigger matches, and he's really good. So I'm glad he got his shot, and it deserved 3 segments. Because at one point too, I remember thinking, "Wow, this is a long match," but it's like, hey, it's a championship match, and it shouldn't be like vanilla, where a championship match is 7 minutes long, including entrances.
Right. And
like, that's not a championship match.
Excalibur, he was also live tweeting during the show, and one of his tweets at one point was like, "Oh, just a reminder to everybody that championship matches on AEW are 60-minute time limits." And I'm not sure at what point of the match he tweeted that, but I would like to think that it was a little bit further into the match, because this was a 25+ minute match. Like, this was a long match. We're gonna probably switch out, and the highlights aren't even done rolling yet, but we gotta move on. But again, really good match. Sammy really coming out of the Inner Circle shadow, if you will, and making a name for himself in this one. And Kenny looked good, Sammy looked good. Brandy gets a good slap in on Sammy at one point, so she's looking good. And once again, Cody's the only complaint on the match. So after the match and whatnot, we get kind of the final segment of the show, and it's going to be this face-off between Jericho and Matt Hardy. And the singing of Judas is kind of taking over the world right now. We have the hashtag Judas Challenge. If you watch that hashtag, it's just people in their living rooms singing along to Judas. And last week on Dynamite, we have Sammy out in the crowd giving his rendition of Judas, and MJF, giving his critique, his American Idol judge kind of, whatever you want to call it. He's a little bit pitchy. This week we get the camera guy. Jericho goes and grabs the camera guy's camera and films him singing along to Judas. Now, I thought this was great. This is classic Jericho. If that's a real camera guy, part of the crew every week, good on him for... I'll go on camera and sing it. Fuck yeah. Like, I'll do that shit. Like, good for him.
Yeah. I feel like I could see Jericho, like, going in the back, hey, I have this idea. We can't have any of the wrestlers out here. Like, what camera guy is willing to kind of go and do this? And then, of course, you got to get the, Brian from AC/DC, out there with the curly hair. And I thought he did a pretty good job.
He was the most metal-looking guy that I've seen on the crew, so it made sense. But they very easily could have hired some guy just to be there to do that. But it genuinely looked like that's a real camera guy, and I'm gonna make an effort in the coming weeks to look for him as the other cameras are panned across the ring or whatever to see if that was really him. But
okay,
yeah,
I will too.
Wasn't the greatest singer. If you had to choose, Sammy or camera guy number one, who's the better Judas?
I felt like the camera guy knew the words better.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I'll leave it at that.
He put more heart into it. He tried harder. Yeah. Sammy was just out there winging it.
But did you see Sammy's vlog this week?
No, I don't watch Sammy's vlog.
So on Sammy's vlog, he's in his living room or somebody's living room, and they're teaching him the words. So he didn't know the song, and he was prepping for having to do that bit. So it was like totally planned. Okay. And he kept screwing it up. So he got there, and then he still screwed it up.
Right. I mean, you look at Wayne's World, the Bohemian Rhapsody scene, the infamous scene in Wayne's World. Dana Carvey didn't know the words to Bohemian Rhapsody either, and he tried and tried and tried. He could not learn these words, and there's the famous scene where it pans over to Garth, and he's just, because he doesn't know the words, and that's like a true, genuine, he's just like, I'm just going to do this, and it ended up working out. And I think that's the same with Sammy's rendition of Judas. It just ends up working out that, he kind of flubs the lines, and
yeah, I
think it works.
I mean, at least he didn't stop, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Just kept kind of humming it, and yeah, it's a good job.
As we get into the segment, Jericho... he wants his face-to-face with Matt Hardy. He wants to try to convince him to join the Inner Circle and not be involved with the Elite. Enter Vanguard 1, and again, classic Jericho. Cutting promos on inanimate objects. We've seen it before. I'm sure we'll see it again, but man, genius. It's just genius.
Yeah,
that he can get this kind of stuff over. What did you think?
He gets a clipboard over, and now he gets this drone over. He goes home. He gets his Roomba over.
Right,
he's trash talking his Roomba. Yeah, if you needed any more convincing that Jericho is the GOAT, this has to be just another prime example of it.
Right.
You could even say it concretely or solidifies.
Cements it. Yeah, solidifies. I felt like, I don't know who controls Vanguard 1. I mean, we are to believe that it's kind of its own entity, but when Jericho offers a spot in the inner circle to Vanguard 1, I feel like someone just needed to make him say no. You know, like get somebody who can fly a drone and make it say no, not just fly away. I think it would have been comical, but it would have been
Yeah. Or maybe he needs like an LCD screen
right
where he can communicate back. Yeah.
speak and
I
spell.
agree. That's a really good idea.
But and then enter or cue the music, and we hear the music of Matt Hardy, the pianos, and this was a really cool moment, and I wonder how they did it. Obviously not live. Was it taped during the commercial break? Like I don't get how they did it.
It's they clipped it together, so it had to have been re-recorded. I just stumbled on it by accident. So as I was watching it, I was actually looking at Jericho, and you can see his hair because they're outside, right? His hair is moving, and then when Matt goes to a different part of the arena, his hair's in a different position.
Oh, okay.
So it's like they filmed it a little bit, then they cut it, and then he moved. They filmed it a little bit, and Jericho just stood in one place. So that was, I feel, pre-recorded.
So do you think they did that last week? Because this is what's boggling my mind is when did they film this?
I want to say it was earlier in the day.
But it's dark out. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
movie magic, I guess. But
yeah, because you feel like they wouldn't have enough time to do that during,
like, even during the commercial break, just to get the shots on that they could, plug over the live feed. It was amazing, and it was an amazing effect as Damascus, makes his entrance, and he kind of teleports across the arena, and eventually is face to face with Jericho, and Jericho does a good job selling this, and he just like, wow, that was really impressive, and he goes on to his spiel about joining the Dark Order, the Inner Circle. What did you think of this interaction between Matt and Jericho?
I was really pumped for it at the beginning. They kind of lost me.
Yep.
At some point. You can really tell that there's nothing planned here. Mm-hmm. And they're just working off one another. So in that respect, it's pretty good. It's not like they just stopped talking at some point and didn't know what to do. But yeah, no, I lost interest in it. Like they're yelling at one another at some point. Elite, delete, elite, delete. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I just got bored with it.
Yeah, me too.
It wasn't moving fast enough for me.
I feel like this is a perfect example of less is more. It very easily could have been, hey, this is my offer. I don't think you should be involved with the Elite. You should join the Inner Circle. Da-da-da-da-da. What do you say? And then Hardy does his spiel and his broken brilliance, and then the answer is no. And Jericho's like, you're making a mistake. I want you to really think about this. And the answer's still no. And then the brawl happens. Like, that's all it needed to be. We didn't need to get as much shtick as we got. Like you said, mm-hmm. I kind of tuned out. I lost interest because it was going, so out of the way. I understand that broken Matt Hardy is a very complex character, and he probably needs to say a lot of the gimmick, to get the gimmick across to a new audience. But yeah, you have a lot of time to do that. You have so much time to build this character, and I thought this was, again, much like the Brody Lee situation, it was almost detrimental to the character. But
yeah, especially now that there's blood and guts is not probably going to happen anytime soon. I'm thinking we probably aren't going to see this in the next month the way it's going. So yeah, there's a lot of time to build it up, and I don't know. Do you think they were trying to fill time?
I think that's might have been part of it. They're like, oh man, we went through this so fast. Maybe that's why the Kenny Sammy match was as long as it was, is because they were trying to fill time. Like,
Yeah.
the two squash matches almost hindered the whole flow of the episode. But it was what it was. We got right into, Sammy jumps in and knocks over Matt, and there's a little bit of a beat down, and Cody and Kenny drop the microphones off commentary to come and help, and then we get some more supernatural work from Matt, as Chris and Sammy are up on the stage, and he's kind of scaring them off with all the fire. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
So, Tony does a good job while this is all going on after he loses his commentary partners there. And he's just like, oh my God, this is something else. And, classic. I can't even remember what exactly he says, but I mean, he puts the whole situation over, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. For me, the best moment was when Matt says, "You're truly a hole of ass." Truly a hole of the ass.
Yeah.
Lots of people were tweeting that online. Man, I feel like I need to say that to a few people. Because it's like, yeah, you're not calling him an asshole, but you're a hole of the ass. So I thought that was a pretty smart comment. That saved this segment for me.
Right. And that's classic, that's classic Broken Matt, the bucks of youth, and he's got a lot of kind of backwards sayings. If you've listened to the Matt Hardy, Chris Jericho podcast interview there, he talks about where he draws a lot of his inspiration is from like TV and stuff like that. Maybe there's a little bit of Yoda in Broken Matt in the way he kind of puts these sentences together. It's neat.
Yeah,
I like it. So, and any other comments or insights you want to give about the episode as a whole, or?
Yeah, I don't think it was as good as last week. I think it's a good transition show into, furthers us a little bit into some things, and then we have a few matches that they don't really make sense on paper, but they come off
really well,
really good in TV. And just looking forward to seeing what Brody Lee's going to do. And I'm sure there's going to be more Jericho and Matt stuff. And I'm sure that will get better.
Right.
Once they, really get some time together those guys are good. Like it's got to be good stuff. So,
yeah, I feel I agree with you that the episode maybe missed the mark a little bit. In the sense that, last week was so kind of revolutionary in a way. I felt the matches were better this week. Aside from the two squash matches, which are, squash matches are squash matches, right? But I think they were dealt a pretty mediocre hand in the fact that they had this plan for Blood and Guts. We didn't get to see this parking lot match that the Best Friends teased the week before.
Oh, I forgot about that.
The words that came out of their mouth is next week. Next week. We'll see you in the parking lot. So they obviously had some plans needed to be changed and some last minute decisions needed to be made kind of thing. And the fact that they were dealt this hand and they, to make a poker reference, I think they still took the pot here on this one.
Yeah, like I think last week, I don't know if you've been keeping track of the numbers, but Dynamite almost hit 1 million.
Yeah, they were well over the 900,000 mark last week,
and they really were further ahead than NXT than they usually are. I don't know what this week was as well, but I heard nothing about WWE this week, so I can only imagine that that's not really going over with the fans too well. So I think in these times it's going to be the good wrestling that's going to take over. So yeah, keep doing what they're doing.
For sure. I believe the numbers this week were like 839,000 for AEW. It's a little bit down from the previous week. NXT has kind of been around that 100 to 150,000 less than AEW. So I believe that figure stayed true for this week. But AEW is on quite the winning streak right now. I believe they're well into 4 or 5 months straight of higher ratings than NXT anyways. I believe Raw and SmackDown are still breaking their 2 million points. So
right.
But small baby steps for AEW. They're dealing with what they need to deal with. They're doing a good job. I'm still enjoying watching the show. I'm still looking forward to the next week, every week. Like you said, it'll be interesting to see where they take this Brody Lee thing, and hopefully we get some more Jericho Matt interactions executed a little bit better. But yeah, overall, great show. Can't wait for next week.
Me too.
All right, well, that'll be the show for this week. Thanks for watching, you guys. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave us some comments below. What do you think of Brody Lee? What do you think of Broken Matt? Was Sammy and Kenny the match of the night like we thought? Let us know what you're thinking, and we will definitely comment back on your comments for sure. And can't wait to engage in conversations with you guys. Anything else you'd want to add?
I don't think so. I think we said everything we need to say. So
all right,
let's sign off.
On that note, go fuck yourself, Jim Cornette.